You're not going to believe what they did, Paul. I understand the strategy completely. If you remember, Paul, before you say anything, everyone complained that Microsoft put an ad in the start menu. It was Candy Crush, right?
Okay.
And so Microsoft is now saying, what if Candy Crush isn't an ad?
Wow.
It's brilliant.
I have a parallel commentary to that, which is when all the terrible stories about Activision Blizzard came out, Microsoft was among the companies to say, "Oh, that's terrible," that's terrible. And then they said, "That's great. What are you going to do about it?" Well, we're going to do something about it. And then they did nothing about it until they did.
Yep. So for people who aren't aware, Microsoft announced this morning that they're going to acquire Activision for $70 billion. $70 billion. I mean, that makes Bethesda look like last week's chump change.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively, Bethesda is last week's chump change. This brings Call of Duty back to Xbox. Well, maybe. I mean, actually, I'm sure that deal would have to remain in place, but it expires at some point.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good thing for people like me who can't seem to move on to any other game on the entire planet for some reason.
$70 billion, though.
What do they make beside Call of Duty? Everything?
Diablo, Overwatch,
EA
Candy Crush, World of Warcraft, StarCraft.
So you're saying Candy Crush was like them dipping their toes in the water?
I don't quite know, but I just find it hilarious that now it's not an ad. So what are people going to complain about with the start menu?
Well, oh, jeez, right.
I mean,
Could they put Call of Duty in the start menu? I mean,
they probably will.
Oh boy, this means Game Pass, right? It also means Game Pass is going to get a little more expensive.
I was about to say, zero people will be shocked when the price of that thing goes up.
Like $5 a month per tier, something like that.
But I mean, it's pretty easy to justify. Like if you never have to buy a game again, Paul.
Before sitting at the computer, I was reading the news as I do, and I go through the kind of mainstream news, and then I meander into the tech news, and I read the Google News technology section, and it's like nothing really, like kind of stepping through it, like blah blah blah, whatever, and then I saw a headline: Phil Spencer says Sony launching an Xbox Game Pass competitor is inevitable. And I thought, yeah, right. I mean, obviously. And I kind of moved on. But, you put it in the perspective of what just happened. He knew that this was happening. Yeah. And yeah, he's right. It's inevitable. But, I don't think a lot of people appreciate this. But previous console generations, and I mean like all of them, the big Sony advantage over Microsoft has been their exclusives. And the big thing that's changed between the past two generations is Microsoft actually has an edge in game studios, and like a significant edge. Thus, technically could have an edge in exclusives. None of this is going to be an exclusive. Obviously, they're not going to make Call of Duty. That would be stupid. But like this gives them, man, they kind of went from also ran to like, top of the heap there. I don't know. That's crazy.
Now,
I wonder if there are any. I mean, could there be like antitrust implications?
Well, no. I mean, there's like two things. It's like one, if you're EA sitting out there, it's like, well, someone's going to snatch up EA, probably Sony. Or
I was going to say the EA CEO just called Sony. Like, hey, what are you doing this afternoon?
You got about $71 billion free, because
exactly.
But to your point, antitrust, I think, is going to be the very, very interesting thing here, because Call of Duty is massive. Like, it's massive. It's $1 billion every fall for them.
It might help that the latest one hasn't done so well.
Yep.
It may help that company has significant internal problems, which still have yet to be resolved, and that
it's hard.
And Microsoft certainly has had its own issues of a similar vein, but they've shown. By the way, not coincidental. I think now. Don't mind the Moroccan-style street barker that's out there. That Microsoft just announced a transparent third-party review of its sexual discrimination policies, blah, 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 whatever. Now, that's something they probably would have done anyway. There was a shareholder initiative that passed and, all that kind of stuff. Timing on that's very interesting. What company better to shepherd Activision into this new age of I don't know what you want to call it, good behavior, you know, than the company that just proved it's going to be transparent about that kind of stuff.
Now they are saying if this deal goes through, and I think it's going to take a long time. They're saying June of 2023 is
I was going to say a year, but
likely when it would
15 months.
or if it will close. I guarantee there's going to be stipulations in here from like the EU and other things, like it has to be cross-platform. It has to be.
This is a giant level set. How much was the Nokia? Well, think about this. We often do things in terms of Nokias. How many Nokias is this? How much was Nokia? 9 something?
Yeah.
This is
more
70.
than a Yahoo that they wanted to buy.
This is more than, it is. It's a Yahoo and a half. It's almost 2 Yahoos. Yahoo was in the 45.
40s,
yeah. But Nokia was what, 9? Was that right? 9 something, 9.7, something like that. Or do you remember? I don't remember.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, LinkedIn was 26.2.
Okay.
So
it's almost
three LinkedIns.
Three LinkedIns, a Yahoo and 2/3, or whatever that works out. It's amazing. Corporate acquisition wise, I don't know. I mean, I don't. This is not something I follow, but this has to be one of the biggest.
It's got to be up there, yeah.
Acquisitions got to be. They're certainly in the tech space. I mean, trying to think what I don't know.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, whew.
Yep. I literally 60 seconds before we started, I saw that headline and I was like, holy,
Yeah, it'll be, this is going to be, obviously it's one to watch. It's probably to your point, one of the biggest acquisitions on the planet for the long time coming. There's still so much unknown about how they're actually going to get this through. But it's one of those things, like if you look at Xbox in isolation in the gaming industry, they're not the biggest, not even close. So from that perspective, it's like, maybe it could. But then on the other hand, it's Microsoft.
So again, I'm not an antitrust expert, but having lived through and reported on the Microsoft antitrust cases in the United States and Europe, right? One of the big central themes here is you're leveraging usually a business to not illegally, but unfairly enter and then dominate another business. You think of like web browsers and Windows, as the obvious example. Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, this is a little different. It's like buying your way into a market, right? You're so powerful, you can buy anything. Mike, I don't know, whatever anyone thinks of Satya Nadella, he has not been shy about spending money. This is a really extreme example, but and you compare it to a company like Apple, where Apple doesn't make big acquisitions. They do acquire a bunch of little companies, and they acquire Siri from two guys in the corner or something, or they get little things and they turn them into big things. Like they're actually pretty good at that. But Microsoft, man, they just throw that in the checkbook. It's I don't know that that's illegal, but it does get into. I mean, I think it does raise some kind of anti-competitive. I don't know. Do you feel bad? I don't know how to think of this. Obviously, Nintendo is a giant company of its own right. They're kind of unique. Sony dominates in the console space that Microsoft plays in. I mean, but there's only 2 players. So, I mean, the other guy spending money to compete better against that. Is there? I don't know. But it's PC and console, mobile. Yeah. Call of Duty Mobile is a big deal. Call of Duty Mobile arguably is better than Call of Duty Vanguard. I don't know what the usage is like or what the numbers look like, but
one thing Microsoft,
Call of Duty, it's a whole empire attached to this thing of other stuff.
Microsoft did announce today too that they have more than 25 million Game Pass subscribers. So that's a little lower than I was thinking.
Yeah. So one of the little stories of last year was that they didn't actually hit their Game Pass numbers. So now you see a figure for that. Interesting. Where was that? Is that just
It's in the Xbox announcement post. And them welcoming Blizzard to the. I mean, it's not welcoming. It's they've sent out the invitation. It's like save the date sort of thing for a wedding. It's like.
I wonder if this bride will wear white.
I don't know. Probably green, to be honest, because
yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be.
It'll be like the scene from Breaking Bad where it's just a giant brick of money. Incredible.
It is incredible. So I don't know. Well, that's sort of going to dominate the headlines for the next 18 months, especially in the gaming industry of what's going on there. And so,
well, honestly, when you look at Xbox had an incredible year last year. I mean, despite the component shortages and all that kind of stuff. Honestly, even with regards to component shortages, I think one of the cool things that they did last year that was smart was underproduce because they couldn't Xbox Series X and overproduce on S, and they did a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the big story to me was this just their collection of game studios and how they went from kind of nothing. You know, this is a weird thing to say. Like, think about something like Stadia. Like, what's the problem with Stadia? The problem with Stadia is they don't have any exclusives, right? They just get
Yeah.
all of the things other people get, and that's fine. You know, if you want to game through their, you know, it's fine. It works great. It's okay. But I mean, that's kind of what Xbox was. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there are games and they come on Xbox too. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of them. You know, and now you get to the point. Like one of the things they've guaranteed is by having all these studios is the games are coming. They are coming to Xbox,
Mm-hmm.
and they are coming to this newly diverse Xbox
Mm-hmm.
where you can game in all these different ways. And you know, again, this is just such a turnaround. And again, you know, we talked about that Power On documentary. I really feel like this new era deserved its own thing. And this, I mean, you know, this would have and should have been the culmination of that separate final episode that would have been, they could have called it like a new era because this Xbox bears no resemblance to the 5 or 6 guys from DirectX that said we can make it's really just a PC, but we're going to put it in a box and we're going to hope that people show up. You know, and well, they did the one thing. They did Halo. I guess they had that one big game in Oddworld or whatever. But this is just it's amazing.
It's going to shake up the industry, and there's no other way to describe it. One of the interesting things to be thinking about, Paul, throughout is Valve. They should be really concerned right about now because if this acquisition closes, Microsoft, in theory, could rip everything out of Steam and put it on their own store, and it would take off.
Right.
I mean,
Valve is
all these titles and their
former
own
Microsoft guys, right? Gabe Newell's was started at Microsoft, and I think they're in the Seattle area. Well, they're another. I mean, at this point, when the behemoths like EA start disappearing or being purchased or whatever, I would say like Valve is kind of a mid-tier gaming company, right? Compared to them,
Mm-hmm.
they have to start wondering like what happens to them and can they be independent still?
Yeah.
They can. I mean, I think they can, but yeah, that's interesting. This is the guy from Epic Games, Tim. What's his name? Tim.
Tim Sweeney. And
Tim
they should
Sweeney,
be concerned just as well.
Well, they used to rail against Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
right, in Windows 8 days because they were doing a store, and this is the fear that they were going to take over PC gaming. Now, obviously, that never happened, and he seems to be very friendly with Microsoft these days. And maybe
I bet that changes real quick.
well, if Microsoft they still have that store policy, right? Like, in fact,
That is
Epic
true.
Games is among the companies that can go through the Microsoft store and they don't pay any fees to anybody for anything, and it's transparent and open and. I don't know. Maybe EA continues. See, we don't know. I don't. Will it sort of be an independent thing? You know.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
So
This is fog of war stuff. So we'll see. I'm gonna go after we're done here. I'll read what they wrote and try to decipher it.
yeah, we'll bring the. I don't know. We'll be like baby bird moms tomorrow, and we'll just vomit it back up at like everything that we've digested today.
That's a good description of blogging, by the way. Also YouTubing.